are here. This is the third panel of the Law Practice Management Series. I'm Wendy Coates. I am an appellate lawyer in the county, and then I'm also a member of the Contra Costa County Bar Association Board of Directors. And I'm also the co-chair of this series. Laundry list of skill sets there. This we're really excited about, one, because we wanted within the series to offer the elimination of bias credit, because that is typically one that is very difficult to get, and we knew that that was a valuable service to our membership, as well as layering in the business development, networking, and then especially with the Insightly, if you've seen any kind of advertisement about using the CRM, this customer relation management tool, the hot button word that's kind of all over the place, most of the lawyers in our county are building their own books of business, or they're working in small places, and this is exactly the kind of tool that can help them build and grow their book of business and manage their contacts and their network. And so we wanted to be able to create, in our dream world, a panel that would get us this elimination of bias, as well as some of this networking, and then also giving you a tool and access to begin using this technological benefit. So with that, we're going to begin with Marina Feehan. She is a lawyer, coach, executive coach, and the founder of Positive Counsel. We are thrilled she's here, and we are really excited that even from the advertising from this panel, that some organizations have already started to contact her to do a similar elimination of bias, which is our whole lovely component of paying it forward as much as possible. So we're excited to support her and to have her.
Marina, Sarmiento, Feehan, and I was a practicing attorney for about 25 years. Before I left practice law and I became a career counselor. She was one of my law students.
You helped me with my terrible resume when I was a law student.
So already I've got validation, because now she's an attorney and she's got her own practice, right?
No, I work for a law firm.
Okay, great, fantastic. So I grew up in Contra Costa County. I am a product of Mount Diablo High School, and I went off to UC Berkeley for undergrad and then UCLA for law school. So it's nice to be back in Cocoa County. I'm going to be visiting my parents once I'm done here. They want to go eat over there at Outback Steakhouse. So we're going to get started. I've got a 1-hour presentation, and during that presentation, we are going to be having a audience participation thing, okay? So you all should have one of these, okay? And we'll be filling that out at one point during the presentation. So just making you guys ready. So let's go ahead and get started. Today we're going to be talking about what is implicit bias. And as part of that, we're going to be uncovering our own biases, learning how to recognize implicit bias, looking at how implicit bias affects our lives and our profession. And then lastly, we're going to be going over strategies to diminish our own implicit biases. And I also want to commend you really for coming here to learn about what implicit bias is, because we don't live in a colorblind world. And so just by being here and becoming aware of implicit biases and how it affects the legal profession, I just want to commend you for coming today. So before we start, we are going to be discussing a sensitive topic. We're going to be discussing current issues. So you may feel uncomfortable and maybe raising some issues that are politically incorrect to talk about, but that's part of what uncovering implicit bias is. So while you're listening to me, please keep an open mind and learn or listen to understand, not necessarily to judge. Try to keep an open mind. And again, I'm going to be saying things, some other folks may volunteer things, and please keep it confidential what stays in the room. Okay? All right? You never know. So the goal is, for today, we are engaged in a world that is so much more interconnected. It's a very diverse world. And there's a lot of biases and discrimination and prejudices, and all of these come up. And I don't think that you can ever really get rid of bias. I think that's the way that people are wired, and there's scientific evidence to back that up. But the goal tonight is that you become aware of what your own biases are. And while we cannot change how other people are, by educating ourselves and becoming aware, that is, you are arming yourself with the knowledge, and you can take that knowledge and you can decide whether or not to act and to change your own behavior. Because ultimately, that's all you can change is yourself and your own views and your thought process. So, am I biased? According to lots of work done by 2 Harvard professors of sociology, we are all biased. They've written this book called Blind Spot, The Hidden Bias of Good People. So it exists, and it's backed up by scientific findings, years of research, and an online test called the Implicit Assumption Test, where they've had over 2.5 million people take it. And we're going to be discussing that implicit bias test as we go on through the presentation. So, what is explicit bias? Ultimately, it is, at its ugliest, a form of discrimination and prejudice. Okay, that's what explicit bias is. Explicit in the way that it's stated, that you know about it, that you're conscious of it, that you think about it. And when it gets to such an extreme that your behavior starts to become discriminatory or prejudiced, that is explicit bias. But what we're going to be talking about tonight is implicit bias, okay? It's also known as implicit social cognition. And what that means is it's attitudes or stereotypes that affect how we understand or how we see this world. But you're doing it in an unconscious manner, okay? And you're unaware that this bias or thought or feeling actually exists. So that's the background for implicit bias. Now, when we're babies, we're not born prejudiced, we're not born biased. When does the bias start to occur? This lovely child is my niece. She's been presented here with her parents' blessing, because they love to post her all over Instagram and Facebook. But basically, there have been findings that by the age of 5, we already, in the United States, have cultural predispositions towards blacks, women, and other social groups. And it's based on social cognition, which is we learn by observing others. How many of you guys have children? Okay, that's almost everyone in the room, and someone actually brought their child. And I don't have children myself, but with my 4 nieces and nephews, I can definitely tell that they are learning by observing. That even before they start talking, they are starting to mimic actions, they're starting to do what their parents are doing. So already, you're picking things up by observing other people. We also get it, the influence of peer pressure from mass media. You know, so even before we have cognitive ability, we are learning to pick up these beliefs, these belief systems, even before we know how to make a conscious choice about them. It's all over. And even your siblings are going to be some of your greatest influences in life, and who their friends are influencing them. So, you know, before the age of 5, this is already occurring. And part of where this occurs is the implicit bias that we start to pick up is how you identify yourself, okay, with what groups you identify yourself with. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to engage in this exercise. And what I want you to do is think about what groups you identify with. And here are some examples. You know, some people identify as being Irish, some people identify as being Italian, some people identify by religion, gender, I'm female, my role in the family, that kind of thing. So I'm going to give you 3 minutes to write down 5 groups that you identify with, okay? And it can be race, sexual orientation, lifestyle, golfers, runners, Now, who's going to be brave enough, I will share first, to share what your 5 cultural group associations are. So my first one is really, I identify as a woman. And then I identify as an Asian person. But as a sub-part of that, I am Filipino, because Filipinos are different from Asians. Most of us are Catholic, and also with the influence, oh sorry, can you hear me? Can you guys hear me in the back? With the influence of the United States, us being a U.S. territory for quite a while, and a Spanish territory, we have very different ways, of cultural ways, than other Asians. So I identified with that group. Then, next, I definitely define myself as an attorney, because that's just how I think, that's how I've been trained. And then I identify myself as a runner, because I love to eat, and in order to eat, I have to keep running, okay? So this is what influences how I view the world. So, when I go out, I think about danger things, because I'm a petite Asian woman. So when I'm walking down the street with that mindset, I am looking out for big guys that could possibly harm me. That's just how I think. My husband, who's taller than me, white male, he doesn't think about danger. I think about danger because I'm small, and I'm petite, and I'm a woman. So, that sets up my mindset, okay? Now, anyone else want to share some of the groups that they have might influence their thinking, your attitude? Yes.
Let me just say that when I first started this process, I thought 5 would be relatively easy, but I found I put 10 or 15 down.
Yeah.
And it's like there's so many aspects of my being that I never took cognizance of it until I go vote or I do some other work type that focuses me based on that association.
Right, like being a Democrat or Republican or political views, like all of that influences. Do you want to share a couple?
Oh, yeah. First, I'm a California, New Jersey, and I'm coming from back east. I'm a military vet, government employee, and I'm a diabetic. I'm Catholic, liberal. I'm a father, grandfather, and a runner. I'm an oldster and a traveler.
There you go, right? And so when you hear those words, people have automatic assumptions, right? Or ideas of what that person is without seeing Lou, is that your name? Lou, without seeing who he is, but by just describing those groups, we form preconceptions already in our mind. And that's really kind of the start of the cultural group identification, the start of where implicit bias comes from. It comes from how we were raised, who we associate with, the community groups, who we surround ourselves with. Okay, and it's natural. We are not meant to live alone. We're meant to be part of a group. And as part of that, bias starts when there's in-groups. Okay, I don't know about you, but when I went to high school, there was a definite in-group, and I was not part of it. There were really popular people, very in-groupy, right? And what they did was, if you weren't in the in-group, you were part of the out-group. And so that kind of thinking, automatic thinking with an in-group is that it's a preference for being with people that are like you, okay? So that's in-group and it makes sense. Out-group is people not in your social groups. But when that becomes bad is when you start thinking of them as subordinate to you or different from you, okay? And you have this idea that you're better than them. So that's when problems start to arise with regards to bias. And I'm sure this is all kind of common sense, right? Hopefully. But here's what happens. This is our brain and how our brain works. With the implicit bias going on in your head, your cognitive brain is making, actually, with the bias affecting our behavior, what's happening is you're making unconscious mental shortcuts. Okay, those are called schemas. One of the handouts I gave to you is a bibliography, so it's got a lot of the science behind this. Okay, so bias, your brain, and it results in behavior that's made up of unconscious mental shortcuts. Now, your brain starts to make these shortcuts when you're under stress, or when you don't have enough information in front of you, or when you're confused. So, for instance, if I don't have enough information about a certain client coming into my office, and I just hear the name, I start making assumptions about what I think that person is. So, for instance, if I didn't tell you my name was Marina Sarmiento Feehan, and you just heard Marina Feehan, I don't know, what you would think about my name. Does it sound American? Does it sound, Marina's sounds, could be Russian, right?
Like Sarmiento. Oh, is that what?
I don't know. I mean, see, there's an implicit bias of mine, right? I mean, I've had friends that were Asian like me who in high school told me that they were told, you cannot run for homecoming queen because you're not American. And she's like, I was born in America, I just happen to be Asian, right? So that's my own little bias coming in. So I purposely put Sarmiento as part of my name because I wanted to inform people that I am not necessarily white, so that when they see me, they're not shocked. Who's this Irish person that doesn't look Irish? And my joke is, I'm Black Irish, see my hair? So there you go. Right, but so what happens is when you're under a lot of stress, when you have to make decisions quickly, your mind is going to start making shortcuts. And I'm going to give you an example of that, a current example. So, do we know who that is?
Yes.
Okay, no? That's Bruce Jenner. So Bruce Jenner, about a week and a half ago, was the #1 Google person in the entire world, okay? And one of my guilty pleasures in life is People magazine. I love People magazine. I don't just read it on planes. It actually comes to my house and I read it. And for the past couple of years, I have been seeing photos of Bruce Jenner in People magazine, and I was very confused because I knew Bruce Jenner when he was an Olympic athlete. I mean, I didn't know him, but I grew up with him as a hero. And so the idea of Bruce Jenner, like doing this to his face, I was very confused. And already my mind was starting to make judgments. And my mind was saying things like, what is he doing to his face? Is he getting plastic surgery? I thought people got plastic surgery to look better. He actually looks worse. I don't understand what's going on. So all of this is going on in my head, and these are all like all sorts of judgments I have. Right? Like plastic surgery is supposed to make you look better, it's supposed to make you look younger. So already there's like an ageism thing going on with, plastic surgery making you look younger. So that's my thought process because I did not have enough information. I was definitely confused and I did not understand what I was seeing. So I was making automatic assumptions in my head. So it became clearer when he came out and told everybody what was happening. And then I thought, okay, now it makes sense. The plastic surgery that was happening was he was feminizing his face. And it was stretching and becoming tighter. And he was changing his nose to look more feminine. But I was very confused. And I had a hard time wrapping my mind around that. Okay? You're giving me a funny look, sir.
No, we live in the Bay Area,
Yeah.
and people look differently
Yes.
here than they do in most parts of the world. So,
Right.
I don't know. I'm surprised that you're that shocked.
Only because I grew up with him as a hero. And so like just seeing the transformation and like in my own head of I thought plastic surgery was supposed to make you look better, but he didn't explain what was going on. So that was the confusion that was going on in my head. But now it makes sense. Now that we have full information, okay? So I'm showing you, using myself as an example, how automatic judgments can start with bias, with the biases that are going on in my own head, and my own ideas and my own attitudes, okay? So moving on from there, with some of these biases, there's actually a very, very famous Stanford professor who started out as a woman, as Barbara Mars, and then transgendered to Benjamin Mars. And he's had many interviews, and one of the things that he brought up is that his colleagues, he stayed in the same job at Stanford University. So he's a biology professor, and he's still there. And when he's in a group talking with his colleagues, one of his colleagues actually said, "Your presentation is so much better than your sister's," not knowing that he was the same person. Okay? And when he was Barbara, he would get comments from his colleagues such as, "Did you do that math, or did your boyfriend do that math?" Because that's really difficult type of work. And so, as Ben, he's realizing that he's being treated in a completely different way, that people are actually listening to his opinions and taking him seriously. Whereas when he was Barbara, when she was Barbara, that didn't happen. What she was saying was getting, judged, things like that. So even the male-female gender thing, there are some biases that we all have. Automatic thinking, okay? So how does it affect us in the legal community? There was a famous study, and you have a copy of it. This one, written in black and white, where they did an experiment, and they sent out a legal memo and got folks in advance, partners at law firms in advance, to judge and grade this memo, okay? One set of partners were told that they were grading the paper of an African-American male named Thomas Meyer. The other set was told they were grading the paper of a Caucasian male named Thomas Meyer, okay? The methodology was that it was 60 diverse partners, 22 different law firms, 23 were women, 37 men, racially diverse, right? Half of them got Caucasian, half of them got African American. They all got the same memo, same exact memo. 22 deliberate errors in that memo, okay? 7 were just minor spelling errors. 6 were substantial writing errors. 5 were errors of fact. 4 errors of analysis. So, it was a memo with discussion, legal analysis, the usual, right? Research and writing memo that you get from an associate. They were told that Thomas was, a third-year associate from NYU Law School, and that they had to score him on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being the best, 1 being the worst. What do you think the results were? So his average score was 3.2. Some of the comments, though, were that his memo needs a lot of work. I can't believe he went to NYU.
Oh,
okay? He is average at best. Who was the winner?
White guy.
The white guy. Same memo, okay? 22 errors. His average score was a 4.1. Comments were actually much better. Generally a good writer, just needs to work on a few things. He's got potential. Good analytical skills with 4 substantial analytical errors, okay? And what this is is a case of confirmation bias. When they were told that they were grading African American versus, Caucasian, they were already in their mind thinking a certain way. And a confirmation bias is it's a tendency to look for things, to interpret information in a way that already confirms your preconceptions. And that leads to statistical errors. There's a site for it. But that does happen. And yes, sir.
So how did they decide that that the bias was consistent with preconceptions?
Well, because they use the exact same memo.
Yeah.
And so when you're using the exact same memo and you're looking at the quantitative comments that were made, it was like, how do you explain that?
Okay.
How,
So did they do some analysis?
yeah, they did some analysis.
As to how the non-Caucasians
Yeah.
rated versus
Yeah.
the Caucasians?
And that's why I gave you the yellow paper
Yeah.
to break it down so you can see what the methodology was for that.
Yeah, but hold on a second, Mark, I don't think you're taking it right. The question of the implicit bias that she's talking about is not it really goes cross culturally, if you
Yeah.
will. So that, and the IAT will generally show that the minority perspective is just as biased as the majority perspective against one's own minority group. So that's not what, I thought that's what I heard where you were going.
Well, I didn't know really what
Right.
the result would be. I just wonder how they, how they classify it as a preconception.
As a
I
preconception.
mean, the test is set up so
Yeah.
that they're forcing the people to be biased. They don't give them the option of saying, well, I can't really tell because, I don't know all the information here,
Right.
right?
No,
So,
I mean,
so
the
it's
only thing
it's a quibble over the term preconception, I guess. Is what.
I think one of the questions
Yes.
that we're kind of going towards is,
Well.
did the reviewers,
Yes.
okay, you said they were racially diverse.
Yes.
And,
Women, men, different ethnic groups. Yeah.
And but I think the question might be, how did each of those different groups react to the paper? And it's simply a question.
They reacted pretty similarly.
Okay, so the African American reviewers judged the African American writer more harshly in the group that thought it was
Yeah,
African American, the African American reviewers in the group that thought they were reading a Caucasian text.
Yes.
Okay.
There is that bias. Okay.
And,
So-
and that's because that's not in here, but that's it was broken down in the study. Is what you're saying?
Yeah.
I think that was really kind of the question.
Thank you for
Sort of
helping
part of it.
clarify. So,
It depends what you call a preconception.
Yeah.
Because if they had presented everything
so
the same way, but they had said, by the way, we don't know what race this person is.
yeah,
I wonder if that would have changed
that would have changed.
the responses.
Yes.
Wouldn't have told them what to answer.
But what they would have also had to do is not tell them the name. Because Thomas Meyer, I think people are going to have preconceptions when they hear that name. And probably strip out the gender. Because this test has been done where it's been male-female. And the same things have happened, regardless of the gender and the race. There has been, again, disparity in how the person is judged.
Well, that's right. But if you limit the information that people have,
Yeah.
all right, so they don't real understand,
But see,
what the
this
situation
is the whole point
is.
of implicit bias, is that when you have limited information, you're going to make judgments. That's the point of it. Okay, so with
But-
insufficient information, you're going to use the shortcuts in your brain.
Right, which is of course
But-
set up by evolution in a way. I mean,
Yes.
you don't have time to decide if they
Right.
think this is good or bad in
Yeah.
a very basic way. But I
Right.
think what I'm hearing is kind of discussing probably more than you want to about this
Yeah.
particular event.
Because we need to move
But
on.
was there a control group, I think is one of the questions.
Okay. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Just really quick, I think your whole point is you need to be mindful that everybody's implicitly biased by default, and being aware of that makes a difference.
Questions about
And they've done similar studies with men and women with like PhD papers with the same
Yeah.
errors, and women get judged far more harshly and have higher expectations of performance than men. Similar.
Very similar. And with resumes too. You know, just different names on resumes, things like that. They've done this study many times in many different fields.
Although mine didn't count, mine was objectively bad.
What?
I said mine didn't count, mine was objectively bad.
When I did your resume?
Yes.
Okay. So how do we uncover our own implicit biases? And really, there's a fantastic test, and I'm sorry, sir, what was your name?
My name's Richard.
Richard, have you taken the implicit?
No, I haven't actually. No.
Oh, okay. It sounded like you had taken it.
I read about it, was all.
So this is an online test, and it's given by Harvard, and it's called Implicit Assumption Test, the IAT for short. You can take it online. It's free. It's anonymous. Okay? And what it does is it measures the correlation between how quickly you push buttons, and the quickness correlates to whether or not you have a certain bias, okay, that you are not consciously aware of. So they have had, 2.5 million online test takers. And it really, what it shows, what their findings show is that 75% of people have implicit bias favoring the young, rich, and whites. And implicit bias is like, it's not stated, right? No one's going to come out and admit, I have a bias towards da-da-da-da-da. So this is just uncovering, okay? It's not judging you as a person. It's just opening up your eyes to the fact that this might be behind some of your decisions, okay? And the implicit bias test has many different tests. Like when you open it up, you can do a test on race, gender, sexual orientation, Asians, Arab Americans, religion, all sorts of things. Even fat people, right? Poverty. So there's so many different tests that you can take. I've probably taken about 5 of them. But what it shows is that how you think and how you push the little buttons. Okay, this is what it looks like. Those with higher levels of bias on the IAT are more likely to engage in face-to-face bias, okay, with members of the groups that they are implicitly biased against. And this probably may occur in like hiring decisions, it may occur in folks that you decide you're going to take on a pitch, it may occur on the type of client that you decide to take on. So, just to open up your mind to this might be happening. And when you open up the implicit bias test, what it does is it shows you a screen, and it's going to show you some faces. This is the racial one. It's going to show you faces, and you have to decide good or bad, black or white. And then it's going to have a number of different word associations, right? So it will say something like happy. Happy is good, so you press this. Anger is bad, so you press that. And as you get typing, they start switching things around. And then you have to associate white with bad and black with good. And then that starts to confuse people. And that's when they start uncovering how the bias starts. Okay? That's how it works. They also do it on female. So career and female are starting to get associated. Male and family are starting to get associated. Those words become associated, and then the confusion starts. Because most people associate female with family and male with career. Okay, that's how it works. So you just press I or E, and it's time. So you have to do it fast. Now, you can take this test, discover what some of your implicit biases might be. And again, the quickness of your answer is going to reveal whether or not you're implicitly biased in certain ways. And that can help you with regards to some of the decision making and the choices that you make in your life. So write this down, or you can just Google it, implicit assumption test. implicit.harvard.edu/implicit. And it's fast, like 5 minutes. Or faster, depending how fast you type. I thought it was kind of fun too. Being a huge time suck. So let's talk about where the explicit effect of bias on the legal profession. Okay, and so these are just some of the ideas I threw out there. You know, hiring decisions. You know, are you just constantly hiring people that look like you? Is that a bias, or is it not a bias? You know, who are you promoting? Who are you giving raises to? Same thing with who are you giving the work to? Is it always the same associate? Is that associate always male? When there's other females who may be just as qualified. So these are some of the things that you want to think about. Who are you mentoring as an attorney? You know, are you just mentoring people that look like you? Is it a comfort thing? Is it a bias thing? Is it you want to help people, you know, in a certain situation? Just kind of examine, you know, your thought process as to why you're doing that. Same thing with the types of clients you take on, or the advice that you give your male clients versus your women clients. Maybe might be more condescending towards some of the women clients. Some of the things that you want to think about. What are some other ways that bias might show up in the legal profession? Yeah.
In our cases, I recently assisted a friend of mine in a trial where she was representing an African American man in a DV case, domestic violence, and one of the allegations was that they had been pulled over and he refused to just jump out of a car and sort of like surrender himself.
Yeah.
And she had to explain and have him testify about his contacts with the police and
Yes.
reasons for why socially he was not comfortable doing that, and it had nothing to do with he's dangerous
Or guilty.
right?
Any other examples of when bias might occur?
This is something that I noticed myself doing on the phone with clients.
Yes.
If a male client calls me, we definitely have a different dynamic than when I'm speaking with a female client. One example would be, I don't know, a sports conversation.
Sports conversation.
It wouldn't occur talking on the phone. I just think naturally you say, hey, you watched the Warriors game last night?
Right. I watched the Warriors game.
Yeah, so did my wife is one of the assistant leaders.
That's
so
right.
it's not like that there's a reason for it.
Exactly.
But there's definitely a more, I don't want to call it frat boy, but there's more of a bro, I guess, mentality with certain male clients.
Right. Because it's easier to bond with people that might be similar to you or might have similar interests. But that's natural. You know, that doesn't necessarily mean you're biased, but you're now cognizant of, well, maybe I can talk sports with women.
So isn't that there an underlying assumption, though, that men and women have equal interest in sports?
No, the underlying assumption is that women are not interested in sports.
No, but your underlying assumption to eliminate bias is that men and women are equal in sports.
That's not my assumption.
No.
My assumption is to become open to the fact that there might be women who are interested in basketball, and you can have a conversation with women about the Warriors game. You can bring it up with them.
Well, you didn't say he didn't feel like he could. You said that just didn't feel like the natural thing to do to begin with, right?
It just didn't,
Or were you saying, boy, I would never discuss basketball with a woman? Yeah.
It just didn't naturally pop into my head as something to say.
Well, sure.
Yeah, so he was
I wasn't
pointing out an
avoiding it, it just didn't
observation.
happen. Yeah.
I'm kind of wondering what the difference is between a bias and a preference.
A bias is when you start making decisions, and it's not something based on anything that's fair. Okay, it's just, I think we do all have preferences, and that is perfectly okay. It's when your preferences start turning into discrimination. Okay, that's what we're looking out for. And so by being aware of just the implicit biases and being able to kind of catch yourself, then you can start thinking, am I engaging in discrimination, or is this just like a natural bias? We're not saying that you're a bad person or I'm a bad person for thinking that Bruce Jenner, you know, I was so confused. And I've had transgender training. Like, lots of it, but I still got confused. So it's really about, you know, the choices that we make and being aware of how we act. And I mean, I've committed major gaffes in my life when, for instance, I mean, I have Jewish friends and I didn't realize, I'm Catholic, I never realized that they had different wrapping paper. So I went to my friend's house and I wrapped her present in red and green. And I got to her house and everything was silver and blue. But nobody ever told me that. I mean, she had to tell me. I wasn't aware of it. And so now I'm just more cognizant of, you know, people's different religious preferences. And I don't want to offend people, so I just watch out for things like that, right?
Yeah.
'Cause-
I mean, it strikes me that the big difference is between what's conscious and unconscious.
Yes.
Or based on adequate information or not based on
Right.
adequate information. That seems to be the key difference.
Yeah.
It's not on whether you wind up 50-50 each time on sex or race or whatever
Right.
it is. It's you know, sort of, are you aware that you might be biased? You know?
Yeah, and is the bias going to result in something that's discriminatory? Okay, so some of our biases are not going to result in discrimination, but you know, so be aware of it, like in hiring decisions, you know, things like that. Is there a potential bias in it? So, kind of an example of stopping yourself, of when bias might be occurring. And I put this off as an example, and it's one of those dumb blonde jokes, right? So you could participate in a sort of bias by hearing a dumb blonde joke and laughing about it, or the next time when you hear that joke, you could say to yourself, you know what, I'm not going to participate in that bias. I'm not going to indulge that person. I might actually speak up and say, hey, you know, I'm a blonde and I happen to be very intelligent, right? So that's what the goal of tonight is making yourself aware of when you might be participating in something that could be discriminatory or could be biased, and that you have choices as to what you decide you can do. So, how can we diminish bias? And I'm talking diminish, okay? We are not going to eliminate it. That's just not how we are made. That's not how people are. But when it becomes to a point where you could be hurting other people, you could be discriminating against other people, how can we diminish this? 3-step approach. Education, exposure, and approach. And I'll go into each one. Already you are here, and again I commend you, because a lot of it is education and becoming aware that implicit bias exists all around us, recognizing it. By taking the IAT, you can recognize what your own biases, what your own preferences might be, and becoming mindful of when it occurs. And I'm going to talk a little bit about mindfulness, because I took a couple of mindfulness classes when I was practicing. I was in-house counsel, and I was completely stressed out, working crazy hours. So I was told to take a mindfulness class. I took it twice because I flunked it. I thought I flunked it the first time. I had no idea what mindfulness was all about. And having to sit sit there and meditate, and we have judges in the room too. The judges were also very confused like me. Like, what is the point of this mindfulness meditation? I could not understand it. And it was having to sit there and like watch my thoughts. And I thought, amen, having to sit there and stop my thoughts. That's not what mindfulness is. And I didn't learn this until I took it 3 times. I took the class 3 times because I could not understand mindfulness. And it's not actually until I became a runner that I really understood what mindfulness was about. Because it's when I'm running and I'm doing something repetitive that I can actually watch my thoughts and not act on them. And that's what this point is of understanding what your implicit bias is and getting to a point where you can actually see that thought and then decide whether or not you want to act on it. Okay? And that's why I put that I'm a runner. I identify with that because it is my kind of saving grace with being able to understand all of these thoughts that are going on in my head and having clarity around it, and then deciding whether or not I want to act upon it. You know, that's why when I saw what was happening with Bruce Jenner, I clearly remember what was going on in my head because I can hear my thoughts now and I can actually slow them down. And so, you know, that's kind of the goal of tonight is learning to listen to yourself and what is that self-talk saying, okay? And I'm certainly not going to pretend that I don't have any biases. Believe me, I do. I have plenty of them. And it's, you know, is what I'm doing hurting another group of people? Is that how I want to be as a person? And so part of it is, you know, what do I value? What do you value? How do you want to hold yourself out into the world? And how do you want to give back to people? Is what I want you to think about, okay? So the next step is exposure. And again, there's been scientific research that by exposing yourself to different people, different groups, different foods, ethnic groups, that by just contact alone, you're going to reduce some of your biases. And that's because what ends up happening is you're no longer seeing them as them. By having contact, you're going to see them as individuals, okay? And I'm going to give another example from my life where I had a friend who was very, very homophobic. And I worked for the AIDS Legal Referral Panel where we provided low-cost legal services to persons with AIDS or HIV. And my homophobic friend, I had invited him over to dinner, and I had all of my coworkers, all attorneys from the AIDS Legal Referral Panel at my house. And my homophobic friend came, and he was like, oh my God, I don't know. But he came, he interacted with all of the attorneys I worked with, and by the end of that evening, he was like, I cannot believe how much fun I had. I had a great time. Oh my God, gay people are just like us. Who knew, right? It's like, I can't believe that I have been afraid of, you know, gay people for a very long time. But how did that bias start? He actually got hit on in a bathroom by a gay person. And that just started his fear when he was a young boy. So that's where that started. But now, by having contact with them many years later, it was like, oh, my bias doesn't make sense. And I've had so much fun, and I can see why they're your friends, and hey, no more bias. So thank goodness for that. But by having positive examples, you know, your environment, your community, all of those things, surrounding yourself with people that are more open-minded, getting to know other people with, you know, different viewpoints from your own, all of this exposure is going to help you uncover biases and help you make decisions as to whether or not you want to act in a certain way. Okay. And then lastly, there's the approach. Having a different approach. So we start making these judgments, we start having biases, again, when you're stressed. And as attorneys, often there are moments of great stress. You know, there are workloads. We, as litigators, the deadlines, the court deadlines, they are just crazy. We may not even be in control of our own schedule. And when we start to get stressed, that is when we start making decisions, snap decisions, decisions that could be biased, decisions that could be discriminatory, decisions that could be harmful to other people. And so when this starts to happen, when you're under stress, recognize that. Recognize you're under stress, and you might want to start taking a step back. And by taking a step back, it's engaging in a higher level processing. And what that means is you may want to, one, not send off that email right away. You may want to step back, and you may actually want to write it out by hand. Or you may want to have a checklist of, when I'm under stress, this is what I need to do. I need to take a step back. Or when you're making decisions, certain hiring decisions, have a checklist. Have a list of what the qualifications are, and stick to that list. And I'm going to give you an example, because I had a friend who was on the board of the Bar Association, and they were making a decision as to who they were going to give a certain award to. And he was going on and on about how he was actually mad at this person that everybody else was voting for. And I looked at him and I said, well, are those your own biases, or is there actual criteria for this award? Because I think what you need to do is you need to look at the criteria and decide whether or not he meets that criteria. And in looking at the unbiased criteria, decide whether what you're bringing up is bias or anger, or does it really have to do with who that person is. And so later on he thanked me, because he was mad at that person for God knows what. But when he went back to the boardroom and they looked at what the criteria was, they made the right decision, instead of one based on God knows what. So, checklists, looking at what the criteria is, taking a step back, taking a breather, that is going to help you when these implicit bias things might be coming to the fore. Okay? So in conclusion, we are not going to end discrimination. We are not going to end bias. That's not the goal. The goal is that we can actually change our thought process. We can change our behavior. By being conscious of your own mind map of how you think and being mindful of the fact that you are a guide to the legal process, that you have a role, that you have a duty to the community, being mindful of when you're using discretion and when you're using judgment and when bias might occur. This is the step towards you becoming a better person and you helping the world at large as an attorney and as a human being.
Talk about, using a CRM to actually grow your business. So a lot of people, when growing their business or communicating with their customers, do it through email, collect business cards, have their address books, their Rolodex that they go through, or spreadsheets, but this is not scalable. So does this picture resonate with you? Just having a ton of to-dos in a ton of different places, and really there's no centralized place to do it. So yeah, that's really not a way to optimize anything. So your mind is for having ideas, not for holding them. This is by David Allen. He did Getting Things Done, and this is a really great, mantra to live by. You really should not be holding all this stuff in your head. You really should just put it all in one place so you can actually do what your profession is and what your strengths are, which is, communicating with people, practicing law, and being able to help people. So if anyone doesn't know, CRM stands for Customer Relationship Management. This is a huge buzzword, and so that's really what it means. And a lot of people turn to a CRM system to improve organization in their company, to increase sales, more money, and to have more efficiency, get it done way better than before. And just wanted to pull some really great studies. So recent studies show that companies with a fully utilized CRM system can increase sales by 29%, and successful CRM projects generate a return of up to $5.60 for every dollar spent and 15% improved productivity. So I talk about this because I talk about a fully utilized CRM system. People tend to hear CRM and they get really kind of freaked out because it's really technical and it doesn't have to be. There's a lot of them out there now. There's a lot that are focused on small business needs and are really easy to use. And Insightly is one of them that we found there was a big place in the market for small businesses to utilize a CRM system. So many companies turn to a CRM to help manage relationships and future and current customers. So you definitely should not forget about people who are your current customers, because I'll continue in the next slide why they are going to be your best advocates. And also it involves technology to organize, automate, synchronize sales, marketing, customer service, and technical support. So in short, it helps organize all aspects of your business and keeps everything in one place. So you don't have to look for a document in a file folder somewhere, or you don't have to look for a phone number in an address book. Everything is in one place. So what this does is it really helps having all your information in one place really helps foster and increase a great customer experience. Dealing with your customers, it's constantly about having this good customer experience and building relationships with them. We'd like to think that we live in a world where you just kind of meet one person and that's it. But you know that a lot of times, have you ever heard talking in conversation with someone and they're like, oh, have you Googled that person? A lot of people actually Google people now. And it's kind of crazy, but they definitely will Google your business, Google who you are, and see what people have to say about you. So though you think that the customer experience is just one-on-one, now you can find information about someone anywhere. So it's really important to actually create a positive online presence for yourself and to be able to create, good positive buzz. I actually got in an accident recently and I needed to get a lawyer, and I looked on Yelp to get a lawyer. It's kind of crazy, but I'm from Miami, Florida, so I didn't have anyone to call. So you have to sometimes go online and search for good. So what you're looking for is on Yelp. So what this kind of funnel shows is that people become aware of who you are, consider maybe working with you. This is just a basic purchase cycle funnel, but they convert, they become your customer. How do you make them become loyal, and how do you make them become advocates? So they'll go and tell people about you and the experience they had with you, hopefully positive. So ways that you can create a great customer experience using a CRM. Here are some tips I'll talk about, but really a CRM is going to be the hub of your communications, your sales, and your collaboration. A CRM like Insightly has ways that you can track events. We have calendaring, we have customer correspondence, we sync with email, and that are attached to contact information. You obviously have your contacts in there, people who you've spoken to, your customers, like you have their phone number, where they're located, maybe even some information about them that makes them special, like about how you can filter them by certain tags. One thing that's really great that a lot of CRM system has is a file document collaboration. So you can actually store files on Dropbox or Box, or even attach files to a person. So you have all that information in one place, and like I said, you're not looking through files, storage bins, trying to find a piece of paperwork that you lost. Everything is now digital, which is pretty smart. Also, another thing that takes it to another level is you have opportunities, which is kind of like a sale. It's someone who raises their hand and says, this is an opportunity for you to do business with me. And so you have that, you have opportunity tracking. So maybe you have talked to someone, you've given them a quote, or you've given them an idea of how much work this is going to be to take on this case. You're able to kind of go through the steps you need with the CRM system, as well as project management. And you have the ability to kind of task yourself, task other people within your department. Everyone who is on the CRM system, you can actually do that within the system by using the task functionality or project management. So here's some best practices, I think, that I was talking about. Documents are easily defined. You can schedule tasks. You can even schedule tasks for yourself. You can schedule it so when you've talked to someone, you can schedule 3 days from now to follow up with that person. You can put a process in place where after you send out a contract or after you send out a quote or an invoice, you have it, you can follow up with them like 10 days later customizable, and it's all about the way you work, and it's how you are top of mind to your customers. And project management, sales, and having that all in one place just makes the customer have a really great relationship with you, builds trust. They feel like you're being proactive, you're contacting them, that you don't just forget about them. A lot of times when, I don't know what you guys specialize, but dealing with me and with lawyers, it's really a personal thing, and people are really nervous about it. So making sure that when you're, trusting someone to take care of your reputation, that they're actually following up with you, and that they're actually really care about you, and you're not just another person in their company that they have to do work for. Another thing that is really great for networking is Insightly actually has, there's other things that you can do, a business card scanner. I cannot tell you so many times I collect business cards and then they're in my pocket, I put them in my briefcase, and I never ever look at them again. So a lot of new technology out there has business card scanners. You can do it on your phone. Insightly has one built in on our app, so you can just scan someone's business card and it goes directly into the system. This is extremely important because you meet people all the time and you do not want to let those really great interactions fall through the cracks. When you could actually meet someone who could be a fellow colleague, a partner, a customer, or someone who has something great to say about you, or someone who can offer you something in the future. So it's definitely a good idea to make sure that you have a process, and a business card scanner is a great way for you to get information in your CRM really fast and tag it appropriately. So one thing that I do all the time is when I meet people, use the business card scanner, you can tag it, that you met them, what trade show, what event, you met them at the law practice event, and then you could easily follow up. You can go into the CRM, click on that tag, and just press follow up, and you can create templates in certain CRM systems and just press send. This allows you can do something really personal if you have the time, or if you had a really great conversation, you can add those tags as you're scanning the business card. And that's really important for you to build relationships. Maybe you just met that person for 1 second and you weren't able to talk to them, but just having that follow-up, having the ability to connect with them makes them feel a little bit more special than someone who, just dropped off the face of the earth. So communication is really key to building relationships. I'm going to talk about this a lot. I'm a marketer, so I do talk about marketing and different ways that you can create and build relationships and build customer relationships. Newsletters are really great, or anything that you can do that allows people to know what's up to date in your business, what's going on. I use MailChimp for this. Birthdays are something you can do if you want to keep track of someone's birthday, you want to give that personal touch, reach out for them. You can track all this in your CRM if you put the information in. You don't read people's minds, but lead source, you can see where you actually met these people and give them relevant communication based on that. Where do these people come from? And also relevant information in the way, why did you meet them? Were they at a specific event? Do you want to follow up with them with maybe a topic that you think they'd be interested in them? You don't want to just be this random person. You want to be someone who is maybe educational, entertaining, just provides content that people will feel like they can form a relationship with you and they can trust you. And like I said, being proactive instead of reactive. I think social media is also a really great place for you to build who you are and build your brand and really create that positive buzz about you. Definitely use LinkedIn. That's something that you can put on your business card. It's something that you could put on your business card, or have, and we have social integration within Insightly, so you can easily see people's LinkedIns when you scan them. You can create a Facebook account, create a Twitter, and you can make relevant posts about who you are, that you're really relevant, that you're on top of topics that are important in the area, in your industry, so people know that you're a trusted source, and that allows people to kind of recommend you. You're not just someone who is dormant and then pops up whenever you want to give them money. You're someone who's constantly active in the community, which is really important. So some things I wanted to talk about is what to look for in a CRM system. I talk about this because in the first couple slides I said a fully utilized CRM. So a lot of people are like, okay, how do I know which one's right for me, and how do I know I'm going to use it correctly? So you want to maybe ask yourself a couple questions when picking the right CRM for you, or ask these questions to make sure that everyone in your company is on the same page to why you're picking the CRM, and it helps really well with implementation. So why does your business need a CRM? Do you want to put a process? Do you want to create efficiency? Do you want to make sure there's more visibility that you and your accountant and maybe someone who works in provisions can all be in one place, all not have to do tons of meetings, or all together and all have the same vision? What are your goals for the CRM? Do you want to make sure that you make 10 appointments a month? Like, this is something you can make sure that you track. Have yourself goals. Make sure that your team knows your goals so they're on the same page as you. It's kind of like a mission statement in a way. You want to make sure that everyone knows why we're in business. Are remote and mobile access required? Are you on the field a lot? Are you not stuck behind a computer? So a lot of times different CRMs have mobile apps, so you're able to enter information without having to run to your desk. It will be really important. Or if you're on-site visits a lot, this can help. So mobile access is something you want to maybe ask yourself. Social integration, is that required? Are you really active on social media? Is this something you really want social integration to be integrated within your CRM? How much customization is needed? What's the best timing to bring on a CRM? I would say slowest season if possible. So you can put that process in place so when you keep putting in information, it doesn't get overloaded. You want to make sure that you implement it correctly so it becomes fully utilized by everyone in your company. And the last two I think are most important. How do you make sure your staff uses the system? What do they think is most important? How do they envision using it? So you can make sure that everything ties together, that they have the documents they need to succeed, and you have what you need to succeed. If it's maybe about last time you actually talked to someone, if that's an important field to put into the CRM to make you succeed, you have to make sure that it's in there and that other departments can work with it. Because sometimes when you have someone maybe in sales who's implementing a CRM and they only focus on what they need, and then you bring in someone from like accounting and they're like, I can't do anything with this. It doesn't help me at all. It's just it's not going to be fully utilized. Accounting's going to go grab another system, and then it just becomes completely obsolete. And lastly, how will you assess and measure performance? If I say, the goal is 10 meetings a week, how am I going to make sure that 10 meetings a month, that after like 6 months from now, that I actually completed these meetings? What fields do I need to be in there? You can customize. Usually you can customize all CRMs to have certain fields you need. You can customize it to have certain tags. You can put processes in place. So when you're measuring that your CRM was not only a great investment for your time, but your money, so this will make sure, if you make sure you kind of look into these questions, just some, but talk to everyone about them, and everyone in your company, make sure they're on the same page. I promise that this will definitely help implementation way easier. So another thing I think is really great, especially nowadays, that really helps people get on board with the CRM and not be super scared of the technology, is to embrace the cloud. So the cloud is how you would say, like, you don't need IT. You can just sign up for it online. It's usually subscription based. It's kind of like a Gmail or a Facebook. You just log in from anywhere. So it's really quick to implement. You don't need to download anything, and this is great because you can actually access it from anywhere. It's also less expensive since it is subscription based. You don't need to buy huge software that maybe might need updating years from now. So you don't have to put that full investment up front. You could actually try it out for a month or two and see if you like it. And a lot of companies give you the option to try before you buy it with SaaS companies. So you could actually, SaaS is software as a service, sorry. So the cloud would call themselves a SaaS application, so it's as a service. So a lot of them will do 14-day trials because they want to make sure you like what you're kind of getting yourself into and getting to know, the service and see if it's something you'd actually benefit from. So that's such a huge plus when moving towards the cloud, and it's becoming a lot of things have to be compliant. You can make sure that different softwares are compliant with different law compliances. So to make sure that that your everything is all in one place and that it actually make sense for you to move towards that. But a lot of softwares out there that are SaaS are becoming more and more secure, and then they have tons of backup, and then they have like layers of security and have certifications. And so also, how does this really affect the customer? It gives you a quicker response time. You're able to get to the computer faster, you need to run home and open your laptop and then just log in, or not even run home, run to your office. It gives you a quicker response time and also relevant information at your fingertips because you can access it from anywhere. I like Google Apps a lot, so that's a really great cloud solution for people who don't use email. It's a really professional way that you can actually Google Apps, you can get your domain, use your company name, and so it's not just going to be a Gmail, it'll be your company name at Google Apps. So that we do a really good integration with them. So you can have Insightly within your email, and we sync with calendar and contacts. So just like I said, Google Apps is a really great way for you to check email on the go. So some tangible business benefits of moving to a CRM system is it reduces cost, it improves organization, it also gets a better view of your sales pipeline, you manage your contacts more efficiently, you get a handle on your day-to-day tasks, supports business growth, and want to be more competitive. This was a survey we had done to our customers and kind of why and what were the benefits they saw moving to Insightly. So that was just something that I thought was really great tangible business benefits. So if it resonates with you, definitely you should sign up for a 14-day trial. And that's it. This didn't keep me too long. So if anyone